Hi people, welcome to the pod. Today's going to be a bit more of a serious episode than my last episode. This is only the second episode ever, but it's a very heavy topic, as it usually is the second week of September in America. I try to indicate that with the song choice, I guess, in a way. As usual, I have notes on my computer. That's what I'm looking down at. And yeah, I just want you to know that I'm really trying to handle this topic with care. Today, the day this episode is being filmed, is the anniversary of one of the most important days in American history, to say the least. Never has there been an attack on American soil that was such a test on American strength and community that was as large and as rippling as the September 11 attacks. 24 years ago today, 4 hijacked planes set out from American airports with the intent of destroying American symbolic landmarks and making a mockery out of the American people. 24 years ago today, those evil terrorists involved in the attacks failed. Though countless precious American lives were lost in a tragedy so unprecedented that it rocked most of the Western world, in an attempt to break American spirit and morale, the Al-Qaeda terrorists failed. In the light of the horrific tragedy, the likes of which had never before occurred on American soil, on September 12, 2001, the day after the 9/11 attacks, Americans woke up unified. Americans shared in fear and grief and desire for a safer world, desire for justice for the lives and locations and buildings lost. In the wake of one of the most horrible events in American history was something beautiful. Community, love, care, stories of heroism on the grandest scales within the towers and in the after effects, and stories of hope in the smallest, in homes, in living rooms, in churches, in community spaces. When we say never forget, we refer to the lives that were lost, but we also refer to never forgetting what good can come from a community that comes together in the wake of something terrible. In America live people with different places of origins, different political affiliations, degrees, home regions, and occupations. But the one thing that connects us all is the gift of somehow being fortunate enough to call America home. Whether you were born on our soil or found your way here later in life, this nation, the greatest nation in the world, is yours. This community, though often grisly and sometimes hard around the edges, sometimes in peril, can and will be yours. That is the American dream. We are and should be more than just a group of individuals with a north and south border in common. Just as was on September 11th, 2001, now is a time to remember who we are. Remember who you have the duty to be. I had planned for days to dedicate an episode to 9/11. The original plan was to make my Wednesday-Thursday episode, an episode which will, going forward, be an episode dedicated to explaining a historical event that has something to do with the current events topic I discuss on the Sunday episode. The original plan was to make that about the Kent State shootings of 1970. I thought that was an important topic in context of what I had talked about in the Sunday episode, which was the, until yesterday, biggest national news story of Trump sending the National Guard into Chicago. Though I still do think that story is important and will probably go over it again at some point in the near future, I've decided to let my Sunday episode stand alone for this week. Yesterday, September 10th, 2025, was an incredibly jarring day for anybody with any kind of eye on national news. If I was to pretend like it didn't happen, I fear the elephant in the room would be too big to ignore. I wouldn't feel right doing that. Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist and spokesperson, was assassinated yesterday at an event in Utah. Though I have never agreed with Charlie Kirk on any level, I recognize his assassination for what it is, a horrible tragedy and an attack on American democracy. In a country founded on the principles of freedom of speech, it is never okay to harm anybody based on their beliefs. In his famous letter from Birmingham jail, Dr. King said the truly transcendent line, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Though I hesitate to even associate Martin Luther King Jr. with somebody like Charlie Kirk, I think this quote conveys what the truth of this situation is. Any kind of attack on freedom of speech of any degree blurs the line between not only America and nations like Russia and North Korea, where politicians and opposition figures are frequently persecuted and killed for their beliefs, but also blurs the line between America and Imperial Britain, a country that was so feudalist it required a revolution to gain any kind of autonomy in. To anybody celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, I can understand not agreeing with him and being happy that you won't have to hear his opinions pollute and permeate the political atmosphere anymore, but I encourage you to rethink your approach to this tragedy. Empathy is an important skill in times like these, even if you aren't empathetic for the person who was killed or who was the victim in such a case. He had a family, he had supporters, he was a human just like you and me. Not only do I think that two wrongs don't make a right, I think that people reveling in his death fail to understand the true importance of freedom of speech and the American Constitution. I ask you as respectfully as possible, and with respect for many of your arguments, to please hear me out and change your language. Do some research. This really is not meant to be me talking down to you. I just genuinely think that you should look into it a bit more. However, I also want to warn you to be careful of MAGA reactions and messaging that you may hear or be approached with in the aftermath of this event. I don't doubt they'll try to launch Charlie Kirk into martyrdom in the coming months and weeks. Remember that the real enemy isn't whoever MAGA tries to put the blame on, which is their favorite activity to do in true tragedies like these. The real enemy is the same gun violence that claims the lives of American kids in school shootings, of American people in mass shootings. The only true way to end gun violence is to advocate for stricter gun laws. Call your representatives. Join advocacy groups like Everytown, Students Demand Action, the Sandy Hook Promise. America has never made any progress by channeling negative emotions into hate. All of the most powerful movements, the civil rights, the anti-war, to name a few, made the strides they did because they valued peaceful means of protest and activism. If you want to see change, I encourage you to behave the same way. Participate in sit-ins, peaceful protests or marches. Join in community spaces like town halls or grassroots organizations or churches. Just like in the aftermath of 9/11, another American tragedy like what happened yesterday, I ask you, truly, I beg of you, to remember who we are. What we are as a nation, what we stand for, what our veterans have fought for in the many wars since our founding, the reason American ideology has persevered 250 years and remained the dominant global force for hundreds of them. We are the nation of democracy, of equality, of freedom, of immigrants, of progress. From the coast of California to the Great Lakes and the Florida Keys, to New York City, to Ellis Island, to Oregon, where I am right now. Let your love of community, wherever you may find it, and your love of country power your actions. Whether you agree with me or not, whether you agreed with Charlie Kirk or not, remember who we are and do not let fear and anger consume you. Times like these are dark, they are scary. It is easy to lose your way, but do not be consumed in that loss. Go and find a way to put the power you have for good out into your community. Even if you don't agree with advocating for gun violence, speak on the fact that political persecution is and will always be wrong. If that is how you honor the deceased, then let that be the way. I am not going to try to tell you to think one way or do one thing. That is not what America is. But I think that now is just as important a time as any, where even if we can't agree on the reason that Charlie Kirk was killed, on the person who killed him, we can agree that things need to change and that things like this are not and will not ever be okay. Please take your action out into the community and be a force for good. Thank you very much for listening. That was today's episode of Lucy Got Blue-Pilled, and I'm going to do my classic outro move. Not so classic, I've only been doing this for a few days. Can't remember what the outro of this song is like though, so. Thank you.